I guess I'm just going to say I welcome Dr. Amit Goswami and Valentina Onisor. I've been blessed to know them for 3 years and receive so much wisdom and love from them. And I would like to open the conversation by asking both of them to share with us in the beginning the wisdom, a summary of the wisdom that's in the book, Quantum Spirituality, so we can all benefit from this wisdom. So Dr. Amit and Dr. Valentina, it's yours, please.
Well, Valentina, you go first. As I said, ladies first.
All right. So for those who don't know me, I'm Valentina Onishor. I'm a medical doctor, a practicing physician, specialized in family medicine, and also integrating various systems of alternative medicine, acupuncture, Ayurveda, naturopathy, aromatherapy, tachyon, and quantum healing in the last years since I met Professor Amit Goswami. And I'm committed to consciousness awakening related sciences for about 3 decades now. I'm also a yoga meditation teacher, and I have made the correlations between the ancient sciences and quantum physics, and I'm using both as a support for my teachings. And I'm also co-founder and dean of students of Quantum Activism Visual Lion, which is active, like it's in Jaipur in India nowadays. And now I'll give the word to Amit also. I think everybody knows Amit, but still.
Okay, great introduction. I am Amit Goswami, quantum physicist, consciousness researcher, and a quantum activist. That's how I introduced myself. This book, Quantum Spirituality, is very special because here 2 spiritual aspirants, not only me, and very fortunate to have Valentina in complete resonance with me while writing this book. And the ideas that have resulted, I think it really is a true enunciation of a new worldly way of invoking spirituality in our lives that incorporates at once both science, and by science, please don't make the mistake of materialist science. Materialist science is not a science, it's a dogma. If you take the materialism out of it, then it is very much science, and that part is incorporated in quantum science. Quantum science is the latest paradigm of science, and that's the science that can be integrated with spirituality, because quantum physics straightly discovered no ambiguity, that our reality comes from a reality of oneness. No subject-object split, unconscious, same result that were discovered by great psychologists and, of course, the spiritual traditions thousands of years ago. So the only thing that was lacking in the spiritual tradition, aside from the scientification of it, verification included, is that or 2 things. One is that they never really enunciated the epistemology part of it, how to investigate spirituality, and really left it up to just the word meditation mostly, and samadhi is few words, but not really an explanation of the process, because the process simply was not known. Now with science, with empirical research, we have discovered the process. That's the one contribution. And the second one is even more important, and this took joint collaboration between me and Valentina. And this one is the most important, because in tradition, we have always emphasized the archetype of self. And that is fine, except that it is the very last archetype you want to explore. The end point of that archetype is that when you discover the true nature of the self, like all creative discoveries, you have to embody it. The true natures of the self you find is no self. There is no individual self. It is all just oneness. So the self, what I thought was a self, after you penetrate it, you find that ends up into the state of oneness, which in truth is really unconscious. In consciousness, when we reach samadhi, a samadhi that is called samadhi with separateness, that just gives you a glimpse of oneness of everything. And of course, experimentally, what we measure is that two objects have become one, because when we correlate them through interaction, they are able to communicate without signals. None of this shows you the scope of that oneness, what it is like to live in that oneness. So the mystics, great teachers like Buddha, Jesus, they all had the ability of living substantial amount in this oneness. In the West, it's called God realization. In India, it's called Nirvikalpa Samadhi, Samadhi without separateness. These are very lofty concepts. And most people who look at spirituality, when they hear all this, they don't even understand what is going on. How can you have an experience while you are in a state where there is no split between subject and object? So these puzzles, and people spend so much time analyzing them. When you look at from quantum science, it's so clear. But this kind of spirituality is, as I said, highly esoteric. Something is so difficult to understand what is going on, that must be very, very difficult something, right? Right. So that's one thing. And of course, the other thing is that you leave the ego behind, you leave the world behind, and this has given that world negating quality of spirituality, which has hurt our civilization rather than helped. Because the truth is that when the bulk of the people, most intelligent people, are going to negate the world in order to discover this ideal state of happiness, then society as a whole suffers, because they lose out on the service of this people. So, of course, from time to time, other teachers have emphasized the world, and therefore the world somehow produced some civilization in the past. But now, in the absence of such complete realized being coming to our forefront, we don't even have anybody impressing in bulk that such realities exist, although the experiment has been with us since 1982. It is very imperative to formulate and live a kind of spirituality which is different, which is worldly, explicit, and yet has the same touch of happiness, same touch of oneness consciousness in a regular life. And this is our discovery of quantum spirituality is about. The exploration of archetype of wholeness. It is so appropriate that we have Valentina here, because that's what doctors do. That's one profession out of the 9 professions of the 9 archetypes that we mainly explore. That one profession, medical profession, they still have retained, in spite of materialist beliefs, in spite of the domination of insurance companies and pharmaceuticals, they still, majority of doctors, still see healing as re-establishing wholeness in the patient, in the client. And this is such a saving grace, especially Valentina Onisor, who came out of the tyranny of the allopathic medicine long time ago, and she has integrated in her own life all kinds of medicine in her own practice. And also she has integrated the spiritual practices of wholeness, which are also done from the scientific side. I am also a physicist, had no idea what even vital energy is about, what even consciousness is about. I was a total materialist. But all this changed, and with the help of a couple of wives and with the help of friends like Valentina and with the help of quantum physics, here I am. A fair amount of idea about how to do spirituality in a worldly fashion and be happy. So we are going to talk to you and Stefan about this quantum spirituality, about attaining quantum enlightenment instead of the traditional enlightenment, why to really get out of this world in order to have that enlightenment experience. One thing I always say that, okay, so you are enlightened, but you have nothing to experience with. Whereas in quantum enlightenment, you are enlightened and you also have your ego. So it's like having your cake and eating it. I hope you like this analogy, and let's move on from here.
I really like, Amit, the concept of wholeness and enlightenment on the earth. I share with you, I think it's been difficult for me to be embodied in this life. It's like I didn't want to be here many times. So maybe we can ask Valentina to talk about wholeness, because I think there's a direct link with health as well. And I think I've heard from Valentina that our divine essence is not sick. So when we have diseases, it's because we're not fully aligned. So would you be okay if we ask Valentina maybe to continue on this concept of wholeness, and maybe make a link with health as well, and love and alignment with our divine essence?
Mm-hmm. Wholeness and also quantum healing. Actually, quantum healing is an expression of the supramental body which we have. So I guess we will have to touch all these bodies in this discussion as well. But actually, quantum healing, if you want, which is again towards wholeness, towards this integration, towards embodying what we call the archetypes in this earthly life, is about also preventive. It's a preventive medicine, actually. It's a lot to talk about this. And especially, it's very interesting because we talk this book, of course, in the period that we now share, which is kind of a maximum of a crisis situation. And of course, as we know, any kind of crisis is definitely a call from the consciousness, so that we transform, so that we wake up. We kind of get these wake up calls from time to time, but now it's kind of, we have it all at once, right? More or less. So besides any conspiracy theories, besides whatever exaggerations and panic created, on top of everything that is, still it is a situation of crisis. And if not now, then when? That's kind of an interesting question. And if you look back, like maybe I will divagate a bit from the topic now, because I'm inspired about that. But if you look back, there were periods when humanity had this chance to do these leaps all together, And this you can analyze from so many perspectives, in a scientific perspective, in an astrological, astronomical, whatever you want. There were periods of times when humanity had to make together as one this kind of huge, what we call leaps, these quantum leaps. It's kind of like I see this big possibility. So besides the crisis and the problems which now kind of they become more and more accentuated, also the possibility for this leap, I see that it's coming big. Right, and in this kind of moments, it's kind of new principles and even new laws that are validated, and this kind of like creating this what we call new cycles for humanity. Now, of course, we will not go and speculate about the cycles of humanity and all that, but still, if you see, I'm sure that you will also see, Stefan, there and in your life, that we are at the point where the whole humanity is faced with various aspects which are very deeply impregnated in the collective unconscious, and it is time for healing. This is how I feel, this is how I see it. And this healing, if you speak about this quantum healing and about wholeness again, it's also coming together with the economic and economic healing and even political healing in the same time, awakening, which will affect the global belief systems of humanity, which a lot of wrong was done there, So it's kind of through these wrong beliefs we have reached to materialism and consumerism that is right now, it's kind of very low if you speak in terms of frequency, it's kind of as if you're not in sync anymore to the house when you're living, And again, I see that is a great chance for us all, and even maybe easier to understand these kind of terms, like you're asking about wholeness and quantum healing, because again, it is also about the truth of your existence, the ultimate truth. And the fact that we are so much afraid of this truth of our life, we are afraid to live passionately our life. We are kind of living in a system where we are just one step back, one step forward. so afraid of living, so afraid of dying, that we are kind of just going quickly towards dying instead of really daring to live, and to manifest all this truth, which again means to embody these archetypes and all these divine realities which we all have, and again the term quantum healing and the supramental bodies which we all have. So speaking about the bodies, it's not that we are not just made of this physical body. I hope nobody here believes only that. But there are all these other bodies, the vital bodies, the supramental bodies. For example, when the disease is manifesting in the physical body, it takes time. It takes various types of errors until you're eventually disconnecting so much with that core, with that kind of coherence which you are, that disease is coming as a message of healing, actually. So it depends how you're looking at the things. And if you look even more attentive, now what we have nowadays as a health system, so-called health system, it's more like a pessimistic system, which you are looking mostly upon the disease and upon the sickness, instead of putting the emphasis on the state of health and what it is to be healthy, because kind of we forgot what it is to be healthy. We lost the contact with that what we are, and that's what quantum science is also doing. It's the bridge between science and spirituality, coming with the very common sense practices from various traditions, Qigong, yoga, and anything which has to do with the natural common sense and waking up kind of call. All right. And now ask me something else, Stefan.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the crisis, because just like in our personal lives, crises are there to awaken us, to shake us up. I think what's going on in the world now is there to shake us up. Would you or Amit share more about the archetypes? You talk a lot about archetypes, and I think in the book you discuss several of them. Could you, both of you, share a bit more about the archetypes?
Yes, of course.
If you want.
The wholeness archetype, Valentina and I both have talked about already. Let's touch the other archetypes. Basic archetype that we all more or less become very aware because it's connected with our survival. Two of them. One is called archetype of abundance, and immediately you can guess that it has something to do with finance, money, but it's not that, because if it were that, we would be talking about that. We don't. With abundance. Abundance does not have a particular phase. Money is just one phase, material phase of abundance, material wealth. Obviously, the other things that Valentina just mentioned, this five body, vital, mental, supramental, spiritual, oneness. So all these also have to be abundantly present in me before I can feel abundance. So abundance for most people have become this security, material security. This is a major aberration of society. Nobody is happy. Billionaires today are such nasty people sometimes. Some of them are wonderful, Bill Gates. But most of them, one of them is in the White House in America. So, the point is that it does not satisfy. No, money alone does not satisfy. That shows that there is something that you are forgetting. Your search is still incomplete. You may have billions of dollars of money, but that's just material security. How much security does one need in the material direction? If you don't have mental security, like love gives you, relationship gives you, then you constantly are insecure. Again, I have to mention the name of this person in the White House. You just look at them. So insecure, right? Where does that come from? It is also insecurity of power. Power alone, power for only looking at my power, does not satisfy. Same thing. So the archetype, that exploration demands that I mix power with love, empower others. Now, this ordinary equation is the basis of decency. Why are we decent to another person? When we are decent, we are not making an affront. We are saying that, okay, you are included in my care for the world. That, the beginning of that inclusion is the basis of a civilized society. When we lose that, when we are very close, I mean, majority of the audience, I assume, is from Canada. You are so lucky. You have a decent man as the head of the government. When that does not happen, just imagine. Imagine how constrained people are. Every day they have to deal with it. No? When the entire political system, entire economic system are run by people who are not authentic, not doing things properly, not looking at the archetypes. So what you have to do is to mix abundance and power with love and goodness. That's what elevates them into archetypal love, full exploration of the archetypes. That can bring happiness and satisfaction. And of course,
okay, 1 minute.
Yes, go ahead.
Sorry, because we didn't tell the audience what are actually the archetypes. So when we say about intuition, archetypes, purpose, meaning, or dharma, is kind of the importance in our life, and to embody all that, you know, and its intuitions are very hard to subject to scientific study. But the quantum nature of the intuition is obviously demonstrated by two facts. One is that they are internal experiences, and then that their non-locality is demonstrable. You know, so we will talk about these principles. Non-locality is one of them. And it is, for example, it's not entirely unusual for two people to get the same intuition. For example, identical twins who report the same such things, you know, or there were many experiments. The same laws discovered by different people, the discovery of quantum physics by Werner Heisenberg and Edwin Schrödinger in different representations, like an example. So these objects of intuition are very subtle, and we explore them only through our thoughts and feelings about them. So it's kind of the highest thinking, highest feeling. It's like you never really reach to fulfill fully an archetype. It's as if it's an infinite aspect. And we call them archetypes following Plato, which is the elevated context of thinking and feeling. And the first who came in the spiritual world with this term was Sri Aurobindo, if you heard, when the realm of supramental. So this has to do with, this is where kind of the archetypes reside, right? Okay, yes, this is what I wanted to add, Amit.
Wonderful. Okay, so let's go on with the rest of the archetypes. Of course, the truth archetype is the most important one that is being violated today. And it is very difficult to live in a society where nobody values truth. This is probably where we are really destroying civilization, destroying any chance of recovering if it continues. Hopefully, now, you know, I always quote the great psychologist David Hawking, and also the data on people who do yoga and alternative medicine and stuff like that. That's such a number called 15%. 15% of all people, that's about 1 billion people on Earth. So that's a substantial number. And that fills me with hope that we are never going to get totally lost in terms of losing truth, losing love, losing goodness, losing sense of the archetypes. So things will never be hopeless because of this 15%, and that number is growing. That includes all of you who are here. Otherwise, you would not believe me. You would have absolutely no interest. If you accidentally tuned in Stefan's show, you would immediately run because you don't want to hear all this. So we live in a very polarized situation, and it is not a good number, 15% versus 85%. But look, we don't exclude. Our biggest problem is how to awaken this 85%, not to be their enemy. The approach is we are inclusive. We completely include this. There's no us versus them. If you look at this is hopeless. But if you look at the quantum way, that we are all connected potentially with a non-locality, which is experimentally validated, and we ourselves have a non-local mode of the brain, we can go into that mode, and in that mode, we feel expanded consciousness, and then the world seems like family. This is attainable for every one of us. And so, you know, that's where the hope comes from. And then we can rise up. We can rise up to truth, rise up to all these great archetypes like justice and fairness and goodness and beauty and eventually wholeness. That's the one that we want. Still stay in the world, remove all the dichotomies that give us conflicts, be healthy, be happy, be abundant, have power, not only personal power, but power to empower others, and all the things that really should be the real American dream name, dream of the people of the world, everybody's dream.
Yeah, and about the archetypes, just to finish with that, is that they have a truth value. So it's kind of, you feel it in your gut, you know? It's not a thought, it's something which has a truth value. But as Einstein said, creativity takes courage. The courage is needed to invite the archetypes in your life, like kind of to see what is there, why are you here for, you know, irrespective of how many times you explored such values, you know, like divine attributes or however you call them. So it required a lot of courage. And the courage is a word which for many is new. But still, it is the way to transition from material pleasure-centered happiness to spiritual joy-centered happiness, right?
Mm. So, you know, Amit, my favorite question is, how do we use this wisdom to transform the world so we can create a society where everyone thrives?
Yes. Valentina, you go first.
Okay.
Email
So,
take the lead.
again, yes. I mean, it's okay. So, of course, Stefan, your question is definitely based on what is now, you know, because we are very much about now, and this now is very rich now, you see. So, kind of whatever is appearing like a danger of threatening, on the other side, you have to see the possibilities are there to manifest. And so, on one side, you are threatened, and it seems to be critical situation. Or another side, you may see that people who now they are kind of blocked from so many things to do outside, and they are forced to kind of go inside, and they may see other options. They may realize things which they forgot about their values, no, about profession. I really have friends, business people, and whatever you want, which they come close in this time. So it's very interesting how now there's kind of so many things you have postponed for times when you're very much free. And now that you're free and you have the time, it's kind of, you still feel that you're put in a corner, but you have to remember that you have the kind of the awareness of your choices. The power of choice is something which we skip from our minds, you know, so often. But this is kind of the level of the spirituality that we have in our being, to be aware that we have a choice, you know. We have to know that we have choices, and eventually find out which are those choices, because it's time, kind of, you know. So in this way, it's kind of, you will see that when we speak about the wholeness, again, the people who come to our courses, it's about the kind of even the yin and yang integration. It's we have I cannot show you now, but we have a representation, an image which is figuring what is the name of that animal, Amit, which is holding the olive flower and the other hand. Amit, can you describe that image?
Very good.
Amit?
So
but I mean, can you describe the dagger and the olive flower? So kind of holding the two possibilities, eventually you get to be centered, and then the real choice comes out.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
And let me give this simple recipe, which
Great.
also was discovered while writing this book, which is the whole thing can be summarized: how to develop a quantum skill set. The trick of quantum creativity, making changes in your life, is of course the creative process, and that you already know. 4-stage process. It's known for about 100 years now. This is empirical data. Quantum physics completely explains all pieces of the process. So that can be summarized with the 4 well-known stages. We have added one more, and they are preparation, unconscious processing, insight, and manifestation. This is the usual way of putting them. And so we wanted to add some things, because the problem is that you know how to come to doing creativity. This is the problem. This idea that you have to bring creativity has been talked about for thousands of years. I'll give you an example, Bhagavad Gita. That stated so beautifully. Ordinary action which comes from conditioning is no action at all, declares the Bhagavad Gita. What is real action? Real action is that which comes from the unconscious as a creative experience. But the problem for ordinary people is that creativity seems such an exalted thing. The process seems to be so time-consuming. How to get motivated for it? And that's your real question is, okay, tell us how to get motivated. So we discovered this very simple recipe in our own life. When we analyzed it, it's so simple. The reason that we are motivated, and you have a single day where you are not motivated, Valentina, this is the thing. How do we continue that motivation? Because you start the day with a I word, inspiration. If you start the day with inspiration, and that is not difficult at all to generate, you can look at a flower and be inspired. You can look at water and be inspired. You can take a nature walk and be inspired. You can think of your lover's face and be inspired, or a teacher's face and be inspired. So many ways. We can easily make it so that we periodically during a day have inspiration. The second thing people talk about all the time when they discuss quantum physics, everybody knows the phrase that Fred Alan Woolford gave us: we create our own reality. And what does that mean? Well, make an intention. The movie The Secret made it famous. You just make an intention and then sit. Okay, that's too simple. You can sometimes err on the simple side too. No, it's not just that. That's 2 eyes. That's like intention and then incubation. You just sit, unconscious processing. No, we have 5 more. So you start with inspiration. You intend from that inspiration. In other words, inspiration comes because of an expansion of consciousness, appearance of quantum self, that non-locality. So you take from that the intention. Then your intention is already in sync with the source of that inspiration. And then you wait for intuition. And intuition comes, archetypes come in your life, and then you investigate that with another 4 eyes. So creative process is now I word, imagination, instead of calling it preparation. Instead of calling unconscious processing, call it incubation, like a bird sits on an egg, incubation. Insight is already an I word, and manifestation, the I word is implementation. So, count them again: inspiration, intention, intuition, imagination, incubation, insight, implementation. 7 eyes. If you arrive at these quantum skills of living your life with 7 eyes, you have it.
You know
Okay?
what, Amit? A lot of my friends say that I'm really good at getting things done. And I guess I follow the process you describe most of the time. And when it doesn't work, it's because there's something blocking. Then I need to go back in my heart, you know. And so what I would like to do now, there's 19 minutes left, is maybe open it up for all the people online. We have people from all over the world. Maybe they can ask questions too and make it interactive. Would that be okay, Amit and Valentina?
Yes, of course.
Beautiful. So I would love to ask anyone who has a comment, a question, to just open their microphone and go forward. This way we make it interactive. We always need one person to break the ice. I see my friend Eric Giasson there. Maybe he has a question. He's a yogi, Amit, so maybe he has a question. No? Yeah, go ahead, Eric.
No, actually, I don't. Thank you very much, Stefan. This was very, very insightful. I really like, the eyes and inspiration, intuition, intention, imagination, and incubation.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Amit, for this. This was very.
Okay. Thank you, then, Eric. I have my friend, the other Goswami, Bashkar. Maybe you want to ask a question or a comment,
Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much. Something did come from me. There's the 7 eyes. Is it possible for that to come from a collective as opposed to from an insular individual?
Well, yes. I mean, if we could do it the collective way, then what happens is something even more wonderful. This is what we are hoping for, that we will be doing it collectively. Because when we make a collective enterprise to become creative, to change our lifestyle and all this, it eventually becomes part of a collective unconscious. This is what our ancestors were able to do, because in those days, people are very open to feelings. We call it today, we denigrate it, we call it a tribal mind. But really the tribal mind is way superior than the intellectual individual, so-called individual mind, because as you know, individual is really an individual. It's completely determined by culture. So what is an individual? Individual is only when creativity enters your life. Then you get some taste of what it is like to be an original. That's an individual. So the collective was a much better way for human beings to live. And we just go for collective creativity. Collectively, we develop these eyes. Yes, absolutely. That's the ideal. But we have to wake up this 85%. They're not ready yet. We need education. We need a lot of talking like we are doing tonight.
Thank you.
Yeah, but again, sorry, let me add something, Stefan, because the key to that is obviously to access the non-locality, which is the easiest way to access that oneness. Otherwise, we say that we are one, but we are not, unless we actualize. Even when you say, I love you, it's just a word, unless you actualize. You make that into kind of an active love, So love and not this practice of non-locality, when you practice with the group, anything you do with a group of people nowadays, you will see it has value towards that, actually.
Can you define a bit more detail non-locality?
Okay. Go ahead, Valentina.
No, you do it. You do it better.
I would automatically assume that since I am the physicist, but really it is a very easy concept. It is simply communication without any signal. Signals have a finite speed, less than or equal to the speed of light. And when we communicate by signal, we are already separate. Although the speed seems to be very high, so communication time can be very small when we are close together, but still it's a finite time. And we know it. We know that we are separate. When we communicate without signal, something wonderful is taking place. We are no longer separate. There's no way to judge separateness. That goes away, and we are in that unity. So now this oneness, this was first discovered with quantum objects like electrons and photons. But now people have demonstrated, scientists are such a wonderful bunch when they look for truth. A great scientist named Jacobo Greenberg, Mexican scientist. I knew him, worked with him personally. And he was the great guy to discover this transfer potential between brains. You intend and you are inspired and you establish meditation, correlation, oneness, and then you are separate in rooms which are completely electromagnetically insulated from each other. And even so, people pass. People let you, one person see optical signals, strong light flashes, and that person's brain is active. That can be measured by EEG apparatus. And the other person is not seeing any light, it's just sitting and meditating on that oneness, and that's all it takes. That brain picks up all this electrical activity from this brain. How can communication happen without any electromagnetic connection between two people? Folks, this is experimental data. This prediction is quantum physics has given us in 1935 by no other than Einstein and his collaborators. Very debated. Even Einstein, when he did this, he himself did not believe his result. So, 1982, it took so many years, almost 50 years, but still, eventually the human ingenuity broke through. Alain Aspect in France, he discovered this one, he and his collaborators. And the world should have changed right away. The prejudice of scientists by that time is so great that locality must hold, this non-locality must be false, must not be true for human beings. You know, they negate all this data on paranormal phenomena because the hope is that, oh, that's subjective, eventually they will go away, we'll debunk all of it. This is not paranormal. This is physical instruments, EEG machines, and Faraday cages, no communication possible. So now it's really very hard for the scientific materialists to have any ground to stand on. They are still completely ignoring this data, but how long? How long can you avoid the truth? I mean, Trump is not going to be president forever. The American Physical Society is not going to reign over physicists all the time. All of them, 15% are already on our side. They are waking up for the quantum reality. And many of you already know this is quantum reality just cannot be avoided. Since Dalai Lama has declared that no model of reality is possible without quantum physics, it's really getting into the hearts and minds of many.
Thank you, Amit. Does anyone else have a question or a comment? We'd like to let you a chance to ask your question.
I would like to ask a question.
I have one.
First, we're going to go with Shweta, and then we're going to go with you after.
Hi, this is Shweta from Toronto. Greetings to Amit sir and to Valentina and to Stephanie Yu. My question is that what are the plans we have today so that we can bring this knowledge to the mass people so that we can make it a living reality? I mean to say that this knowledge should not be confined only to books or to the people who are learning or listening about it. Is there any plan, or do you suggest anything which can make the quantum worldview as the living reality?
Tina, you have the most accessible model meditation thing. Why don't you talk about it, please?
So it's not necessarily. So we have the science, we have the spirituality, we have many things which many for ages now they were pulling the strings that only they are right. So it's kind of, there's no way unless we accept into the wholeness, into that unity of our being, of whatever is there, kind of in the search of the truth. So until you get to not necessarily motivation, but to a state of aspiration inside of heart. I will call it like putting wood on the fire into your heart. And still, I would say the easiest way is through love. And through whatever that is, you cannot say that you have such an open heart if you are having an attitude which is very much into competition. So it's coming out of this competition mode from all the things which are fake inside of you, from all the, these behaviors which are related to the negative emotion brain circuits, with all this negativity which is there, and it's unseen. It's as if this iceberg is there, and kind of the life is made in such a way, in such a beautiful way, actually, that it's reflecting whatever is inside of you. It is truly reflecting outside of you, and you can use that towards your growth. So unless you have this aspiration in your heart towards knowing your own truth and owing all that, awakening all that potential, because that's what we speak about in quantum science. we not just speak about, we also bring tools in so many ways through not just understandings, also practical, but towards awakening of all this potential. It's kind of as if we are really sitting and sleeping on diamonds, you know. And again, for me, it's not kind of the easiest way to say that besides the knowledge, which of course now it's accessible in universities, like our university in India, for example, and through books, which again, there are many there, but you need to have the selection active, what to, you know, or, but still, love is at your, you know, it's next to you. And even find that, for example, now, there's so much people in depression or who feel so lonely and they are crying, I'm so lonely. What Amit said is that this, for example, it's definitely a sign of the fact that you don't love yourself. And this is a big one, especially for women to learn. We learn about the chakras. It's kind of, if you want to live in an integrated way and to be coherent, whatever you are, whatever you think, with the way that you make your living, you need to aim towards that. And then the life is answering. We are not separated from life. You have to know that. And then kind of you just have the power and the courage in your heart and in your belly to accept it and to embrace that. You know, a kind of dance, like again in Amit's words, dancing with the quantum self, it's called, you know. It's not so much separation, cut that separation out and engage in your very relations next to you, in relationships which are based on forgiveness, and the more, for example, you know, forgiveness, tolerance, acceptance of your own shadows as well. And in the same time, you will see how you will be able to not judge so much the others, because you are doing the same with yourself, exactly the same thing. It's very interesting when you start seeing these things. And again, there are practices according to where you are. There are so many practices in any tradition, and even gardening, you know, being in the nature. This is such a common sense thing, but because we are so much into this information processing stuff and so much on technology only, we are hooked on the computers. So imagine this is not a healthy way of realize. Try to realize this is nothing healthy, and it's messing with our brains, it's messing with our lives, it's messing us, it's like putting us in a vicious circle, which is destroying life, you know. So the more you come out of that, break these kind of chains and do that. There are, for example, we have the meditation groups with so many beautiful experiences from the people. But of course, it's not just the experience. Like even then we go back to what's happening in the spiritual schools. It's not only about having certain experiences. Even if you have states of samadhi or higher states possible, the point is to integrate them in your life. So integrating them in your life and not judging yourself again when you don't fall trapped to judging yourself and criticizing yourself, and, you know, just completely have this honesty, and eventually you will attract a group of people, even one person next to you, which can be a good friend, can be a good teacher, can be your lover, or even in your family. Now, you know, it's kind of the time to start. It kind of is not about what you talk, or, you know, it's most that what you are propagating in the universe. That's what you are, I would say. Amit?
Right.
Can I make a comment? This is Sandhya. Dr. Goswami, is it okay?
Yeah.
Your position. So to go with Shweta's question, and correct me if I'm wrong, I feel two things. One, we need a tipping point to bring about a change. And even before we contemplate bringing about a change, I feel it's important for us to live that and demonstrate to the world what it is that this quantum living brings about. What does it make you? And if that is attractive enough a proposition for other people, when they see how inclusivity, honesty, love for everyone manifests itself and how it can make you into a happy person, I think that automatically attracts people to know what is it about you that is making you happy? What kind of living is it that is making you happy? And I think we will attract people like magnets. And therefore, I feel the change should begin with us. Even before we think about changing other people or bringing this information to other people, my feeling is that if we live that life, that itself will be a magnet to attract other people to this way of living. Correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Goswami.
No. This is very good. And I just add one thing. We have seen that spiritual people are happier people. That is, of course, a magnet for people to be attracted to. But what is even a bigger magnet is that people have to see that you can be in your action, your active life that people live, and you can change your workplace and all that to make it more conducive for your work to make you happy. When they discovered that quantum science is giving you a good recipe to live a life where your thinking, living, and livelihood is integrated, and that life is a much happier life. Your accomplishments have not decreased, in fact, they have increased. Your productivity is increased, and that is what we need to demonstrate. And we are slowly but surely going in that direction. The people who work with us, for example, this meditation group that Valentina has, there's thousands of people. Similarly, we have a quantum activism movement, especially in Brazil, that also have thousands of people. And these people are tied together with one common link, which is to find that integration, that synchrony between thinking, living, and livelihood. They're all practicing it, they're all doing it. And as they demonstrate to the world that, look, this really works. Somebody once calculated to me that every person have the ability on this earth to communicate and convince, persuade 8 other people. Now, then you see that a few thousands of people can really make a lot of changes in the world. They really are very powerful. And especially when you combine that with group meditation, group intention, the suggestion that was already made that we do it with group consciousness, then things become really a very wide movement very fast. We just started a couple of years ago in a full-fledged university setting where we have a university of transformative education. So we are really gaining experience right now. With these movements are new, but with you and everyone of your ilk joining in every day, we are very, very hopeful, very optimistic that yes, this happiness and this efficiency increase when you follow spiritual transformative life. Those are the key things to act as magnet. Thank you, Sonia.
The good news, Amit, about the 15%, you told me this 2 years ago, is that they're really, really intention to change the world. So they're very influential usually. They spend a lot of energy to bring other people along. There's a question here, Amit, about methodology. How do we move between the different eyes?
Yes, of course. Valentina, you want to talk about this one?
Yeah, but you can add all. Anyway, you're the father of these things. So, of course, you cannot start anything without the inspiration, right? So that's why you go to a teacher. That's why you go to a doctor. Because for example, you go to a doctor, you have the power to heal yourself, right? And you have the power to, everybody has it. We have potential, right? But you need somebody to kind of inspire you, to not take the power from you, but it's not somebody which is making dependent on you, but it's whenever you meet a real master, kind of you will see that you will start shining. Okay, so you get that inspiration, and then only you can kind of you're doing this dance with the quantum self there, but again, without first you need that aspiration in your heart. So it's kind of if you have a horse and is not thirsty, nobody can make it drink, right? So the horse must be thirsty in the first place, and that's very interesting how this kind of crisis like we are now it's creating, So it's kind of eventually it's such a wake up call. You cannot really sleep all the time and just watch TV. But eventually something in you is moving. That's what I'm saying. So it's kind of good to use these kind of moments. And then you get something is pulling you towards, and then we speak about the inspiration, which is the first eye. All right. Now, Amit, you take over.
Okay. From that inspired state, which you make room for periodically by having all these things that Valentina mentioned, satsang especially, this company of people who are of similar inspiration, inspired life, and then you intend. That intending from inspiration automatically exclude you from trivial intentions which we waste our energy on. How to get a better motor car, come on. But if you really turn into the proper intention that will be in sync with the movement of consciousness, then what kind of intention would be there? You intend very simply for those archetypes to fulfill your life. Like instead of money, you are no longer looking for that. You're looking for abundance. You're looking for the feeling of abundance. If you have abundance, you can do with very little security. Every little thing satisfies you. Very tremendously different between the unhappy, wanting all the time, right? Intention. So intention naturally flows from inspiration. That's the right intention. And then in that intention is the invitation. Your intention is the invitation that consciousness responds with this intuition. These are coming directly from consciousness, oneness itself. Intuition. Okay, archetypes, your opportunity to investigate. Now then you have to really find the proper archetype that won't attract it to you. You know, archetypes are always coming to us. They're eager. Investigate, explore us, be happy, be excited, So that's called the attractor principle. Somebody else gave a beautiful name, attractor principle, from chaos theory for all things, but it's good. It's very good. So they are attracted to you. The problem is you have to be attracted to them. You have to feel passionately about one or two or more archetypes. That passion is very important. So develop the passion to see, check out which archetype really makes you passionate. That's the one. Some people use the concept of dharma, reincarnation theory. That's a very good way of putting it. There are people who had events of crystallization. I had one such experience where the experience tells you what archetype is the right one for right now. And if you get that, that's wonderful. Sometimes they come in your dreams, then that also is wonderful, because dreams, we have very little of this egotistic drive that runs our waking life. So dreams, we are gentle and soft in that state. Archetypes can enter our life much more easily. So dreams you take seriously. If an archetype visits you in a dream, you take that seriously. So these are ways to invite the proper archetype. And then it's creativity. Then there are practices like focusing is required for doing imagination in that channeled way towards that archetype. You don't want to bring too many things at the same time. When you are investigating archetype of love, find the relationship. You want to love this person, and this is it. This is the person that you want to love unconditionally. And that one-pointedness can be brought up by doing meditation. Meditation also helps us getting into relaxation. And that's incubation. And then this alternative, this is a big discovery also from quantum science, altering between these states, that function of the jingle that I often call dooby-dooby-doo. Dooby-dooby-doo, that song that really it just wakes you up. Live that song, dooby-dooby-doo. Make a dooby-dooby life instead of this do lifestyle or lazy lifestyle of be, which spiritual people of the old used to do. Or what secret, unfortunately, suggests. First you intend, and that's your do ends, and then you just be, and ideas will come. No, it's not like that. It's do. You have to continue doing that alternative. Then you invite insights come. And after that, no more outside motivation. When that insight comes, you know the truth. You embody it, believe me. You get such a drive to embody it. Only very, very obtuse people who are completely devoted to name and fame, however, those things, they miss it. Otherwise, don't worry about it. At that stage, with inspiration, with intention, with intuition, with creative process, to guide you, when the insight comes, you will know. You'll have conviction. And that conviction will take you to implementation. That's how all the eyes become very real force in our lives. Okay? Don't doubt it. It really happens.
Yeah, let me add something, practical thing. So again, we have this recipe: inspiration, intention, intuition, imagination, incubation, insight, implementation. So if you want, inspiration is clear. Intention, there's a recipe which, even if you get only that, it to be great. Because in order to make an intent, it's not about intenting something and then something else, then something else. It's kind of you just play and you think you're creative with your mind because you change your mind every second. That's not how you make an intention which is working. You have to know that the moment you really make an intention, if you really chose it, if something inside of you chose that, you know, and it's the right thing, then it's kind of that power is kind of even 70% of the action is done if you really make it well. But again, if you change something and then you change it something that it has zero value and it's just wasting your mental potential and not just mental. All right, so how we do an intention, it's in 4 stages. So first you manifest the intent. Let's say I want to heal, I don't know, because I'm in depression, let's say. So I want to heal because I'm not feeling well for some reason. So you manifest the intent from wherever you are, okay? You manifest it from the ego level, okay? From where you are, you manifest honestly that intent, all right? Then in the second stage, you expand this intent for the greater good. Kind of, because you know that, for example, when you will be out of this depression or pain or whatever, you know, or anything, you know, because you know that this will reflect in not just so far, even next to you, your relations, your lovers, your family, the society, the people which you work with, they will be influenced by your state. So you manifest this, and eventually, of course, the whole humanity will be in a better place if you're not polluting with your mind, with all this negativity inside of you continuously, right? So the second stage is manifesting this intent for the greater good. All right. And now the third stage is very interesting because this is kind of where you make place for these quantum leaps. You're putting, as if you're putting all this intent in the hands, in the arms of God, you know, or it's kind of you are asking this intent so that it happens in the movement, in the accordance with the movement of consciousness or with God's will. All right. So it's kind of, this is the moment where you choose. It's kind of in the Christian tradition, we have this "thy will be done," you know. Mm-hmm. So it means that you never know when a quantum leap is happening. You cannot force these moments. You cannot force the supramental leaps also, you know. Is you can clean the windows, you can put up the shutters, but you cannot drag the sun to come in. It's coming at the right time, you know. So at the right time, in the right way, and I have to tell you, all the time when it's happening, it's totally unexpected, you know. So it's kind of the third stage, you surrender this intent so that it's happening according to God's will. And then the fourth stage is that you simply remain in silence. This silence, again, is something which we are not so much used to. So these are the 4 stages. If you remember this and you practice for whatever you want in your life, like in the morning, in the first thing in the morning, you do a little bit of paying attention to breathing. You know, a few moments that you connect with your body, you connect with the present moment, right? And then you manifest from all your heart this intention towards working in whatever area you want. And again in the night, or maybe again in the daytime, you do that. And you do that until it's happening. It doesn't matter how long it can take, a week, it can take 7 years, it can take a lifetime, so what, no? All right, then intuitions, this is intuition when they come, they are manifestations from the supramental level. You know, intuitions, which we spoke about, is the world of the archetypes. They can come in your dreams, these encounters, you know, and when you have an intuition and later on even an insight, it's kind of, you're having the naked truth inside of you. And the more, the stronger this they get, you know, the stronger you follow an archetype, the stronger you follow an intuition, and you move on with that, they will manifest stronger and stronger. And in this way, it's nobody can fool you anymore. So until that point, anybody can tell you whatever. They may have a stronger mind. They can convince you that black is white and purple is green. But in the moment you have a meeting with a little bit of an archetype and even more later on, then you really have the naked truth in there, and you're not fooled anymore. All right, and then about implementation, it's another thing very interesting because, for example, women, we have often very strong and very special intuitions. But what we do, because we don't have Manipura chakra, the third chakra, the solar chakra, the plexus area, much developed, we lack a lot of self-confidence and self-respect. We also don't have the power to follow through, to go towards implementation, So even if we had very clear, as if something is taken out of your mind, like it's like the fog is clean and you're seeing through, but still you choose to forget and you choose to still stay there. And then again, what's happening is that these intuitions, they don't follow, they don't come again, so often until they don't come anymore, and you end up in a compromised life and you're asking, oh my God, I'm so unlucky, All right, that was my addition.
Thank you so much, doctors and doctor. I just realized a synchronicity. At lunch, I'm having a webinar with a friend from Finland who has a PhD on intuition. So I guess we're going to cover one of the 7 steps with her. So thank you for sharing this beautiful wisdom. The people on the line, you can get the book. It's available on Amazon anywhere in the world in English. I'm trying to help the best I can. Yeah, that's right. It's also beautiful. It's a gorgeous book. I have my copy. And we're trying to get it translated in French. I'm trying to support the 2 doctors there.
Can you tell about our website? Yeah,
go ahead, Amit.
Yeah, please, if you want to find more information, consult the website amitgoswami.org, amitgoswami.org. That has everything. Also, you can get the book in Amazon.com the most easily. But bookstores are gradually having it. Alternative bookstores, please.
Beautiful.
Regular bookstores are open.
Yeah,
and
I'll include
ebook is available. So yeah.
I'll include the website and a link to the book in the email I'm going to send to the people with the video of today. So thank you everyone for showing up from all around the world. It's always fun in this area of quarantine that we can actually meet people from all over the world. Nothing stops linking. And actually, it's one version, my version, Amit, of non-local communication. We can gather people from all around the world. And so thank you everyone. And I wish you a blessed. Thank you. I wish you a blessed day. Go in your heart and share some love.
Merci, Stéphane.
Merci. Thank you, everyone.
Everyone, merci.
Stéphane.
Thank you, Amit.
Thank you. Namaste, Dr. Amit, Valentina, Dr. Valentina. Thank you.
Bye, dear.
Bye-bye.